This week's Torah portion deals with negative speech and the incredible consequences of using our words inappropriately. The individual who is afflicted with a biblical plague because of the words he has used has to go through a purification process. And part of the ritual is taking two birds. It's very interesting. There's great symbolism here. Very simply put, what do these two birds represent? One suggestion is that one bird represents evil speech, but the other bird represents positive speech. All too often, when we think about using our words appropriately, we think of stopping saying something negative, refraining from something critical. But there's a second half to this story, and that's expressing the good. I heard so powerfully at a funeral, as the eulogy was given, the individual got up and said that my father was able to achieve everything he was able to achieve because of a school teacher when he was extremely young. The family went on to explain that their beloved father, who was extremely successful, when he was 4 or 5 years of age, he was in an unruly class. The students were not getting along with one another, and he was struggling. The teacher, a wise man, asked all of the students to write down on a piece of paper all of the good qualities about all of the other students, and then he handed them to everybody. The students started reading about all of the lovely things that had been said about them by their fellow classmates. And as the children of this deceased went on to explain at his funeral, it was this moment that the father throughout his life said was a seminal moment in his life. Everything changed for him at that point. Instead of the struggles that he had, instead of being isolated socially, instead of thinking negatively about himself, the trajectory of his life changed for the good. Why? Because of the good that was expressed. We oftentimes think compliments to others, but we don't always follow through and say them. This week's Torah portion reminds us it's one thing to refrain from negative speech. It's another altogether, and an incredibly important one, to articulate the good and share the compliments we think and follow through, telling people just how important they are to us and the impact they've had on our lives. Shabbat Shalom.